Really? I'm like seconds away from starting. So take your pick, upstairs or downstairs. Tell everybody else.
Alright.
Close your door, please. Thank you. Can you close Grace's? Thanks. Alright. That one's okay. Okay. Thank you. Tell everybody else. No, no. What happened to 6 o'clock?
Sorry, I didn't look at the thing. I just knew that I didn't hear you, so.
Well,
Was it sick? Trying to get off the stairs, eating an apple.
all right, welcome back Thursday night. Tonight it's just going to be me. We've had a lot of traveling lately, so Ty's out tonight. He's got another appointment and meeting tonight. Tonight is going to be interesting. I'll catch you guys up on Texas, give you a little fill in there. We'll have a little interesting news. George Soros, I don't know if you'll hear this anywhere else tonight, but some of the things he said really shocked me. But then I read a little deeper. I think you'll figure out what I was looking at there. FBI, DOJ, FBI. It's just ongoing and ongoing. So now's your chance. Share it out now and get it out now. This will be the last time. We're going to give a little war here, a little Madison Rising, and then we'll be back and start the night.
This is war!
You're out here acting so tough, and now I'm calling your bluff. Black hoods in no face.
your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Thursday night, we're going to do another solo night. I know Tuesday night you guys, Ty had to wing it by himself. I was just hammered when I was in Texas. Time-wise, there's just a lot to do, a lot of people to see, and it just actually not the best internet service there. So Ty went solo Tuesday. I'm running solo tonight, so stick with me. We'll get through some of the same stuff. I'll give you guys a little update on Texas. Not a whole lot to update from there, but we'll go through that, and then we'll catch up. So let me see first here who is in tonight. Susie, Mark Grady, how you doing? Mary Skelly's just firing right in there. What does he say? He is smarter than many give him credit for. Dreamers are so mad at Schumer and Dems right now, so he comes up with a plan that the Dems will never approve, and he looks like a hero in the eyes of many for trying. Genius. You know, Mary, you got a little bit ahead of me. Yeah, you got a little bit ahead of me. We'll leave it at that because we're going to talk about that, about this plan, about this immigration plan that everybody's squawking about, this offer for $1.8 million in amnesty. So, sorry, before we get too deep, let me see all who's in here. Kitsy, how you doing, Mama Winter? Tim Bass, thank you, brother. Tammy Lynn was here, thank you. Dan, Dan, you just parked? West Virginia tonight, huh? All right. Let's see. Faye, welcome. Chris, Christina, Amy, Ray, good to see you again. Amanda Keller, hello. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Hope everybody had a good couple of days. Hello, Amy Thomas. Lewis Huey, what's up? We gotta come on. Lewis, if you're not doing anything tonight, Ty's, I don't know, he's off on vacation somewhere drinking pina coladas or something, I'm sure. He'll watch this later and get mad that I said that, but no, he's not. He's at a meeting. I think, I don't remember. If it's a fire meeting, I can't remember. Don Stainway, what's up? Trey, Linda from Michigan, Cindy in Nevada, Bruce Bedard, how are you? Lewis Huey, Art of the Deal. That's right. It's interesting. We'll just get right into that story right off the bat. Beth Grimes, how you doing? Loretta, Catherine, Denise, Sandy, Tim, Billy, Cindy. Hey. All right. So we'll just we'll hold off on the FBI text messages. We'll hold off on the we'll hold off on the Antifa in New York. If y'all hadn't heard about that, we'll hold off on the memo. Even we're gonna hold off on the release of the memo because you guys are all over on this. Good afternoon, Ricky. Isn't it good evening? I think it's 6 o'clock. I guess it's still afternoon. Probably depending where you're at. Doc Smith, how you doing, brother? Hey, Doc. Thanks for bringing in Eric Parker the other day too. That was much appreciated. I wish we would have been a little more prepared. He caught me off guard. I kind of stammered, but I saw you got your sweatshirt from him too, so that was awesome. But love Eric, EJ Parker. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him. I'd love to have him, Doc, you might even mention to him, love to have him come on the show even and give a little talky talk. All right, Denise is waiting. Some bourbon. Amy, I don't know if Ty drinks bourbon. So, okay. So what do we got? Trump's immigration plan. Let me see here. I think I've got this pulled up for you. Yeah, there we go. So again, you gotta cut me a little slack tonight because I'm working everything. Damn it, Ty! Okay, so here it is. Trump's immigration plan. I'm sure you guys have heard, called for a path to citizenship via amnesty for 1.8 million. Right? 1.8 million illegals. Now, I don't know. Tell me, what do you guys... I mean, let's just go right off the bat. What do you guys think about this as far as... hey, Lewis, you'll join in on the next one? All right. Yes, Brother Doc, he is. Ricky says it's 9:30 there. Hoping he has a plan, maybe waiting to spring the memos and arrest. Oh yeah, and canceling out the DACA deal. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, just right on the surface, it appears that he is offering amnesty for 1.8 million Dreamers. Again, this is the whole DACA surrounding. So this says, is testing the loyalty of his most ardent conservative supporters, proposing a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million young immigrants who came to the U.S. illegally as children. Now, you know, a lot of this, in fact, this amnesty talk is increasing already the number of underage immigrant children or underage children being sent across or trying to cross over the border. So it's just even the talk of it. They know. See, this isn't, everybody likes to present this like all of them are, oh, these parents came here and they were working hard, and some of them are, and then they had children here. No, a lot of these is they send over their children. They just put their children on buses, put them with coyotes, which is, you know, human trafficking runners, and get them here, because then once they're here and they get established and they get in the system, then they can bring over their parents and their siblings and this and that. So citizenship for 1.8 million. I'll tell you what, if I was a immigrant who had come here legally, immigrated here legally and gone through the whole process, I think I'd be pretty upset, wouldn't you guys? Because they can take 10 years for them to go through the process. Let's see. Doc Smith says, I'd rather see pardons for our patriot prisoners. Amen to that. Brian Worth says the number's higher. He doesn't like it, and the number's higher. I think you're right. I think that you're right, Brian. And Doc, yes, I agree. We'd free the Hammonds. That's one of the next fights, isn't it? Besides Charlottesville, which is building. I'll tell you. That's all I'll tell you right now. So here's the thing. So I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, there's no way. He's not going to back on this, right? This was the build the wall, the tough on immigration. This was the whole thing for this president. So why would he do this? Why would he literally put forth the option or the deal to give them amnesty, and not just amnesty, not just like, we're not talking short-term amnesty with a process that they have to go through. I mean, there's a process, but they will have, as long as they meet the qualifications, they can become citizens. Well, Kyle Bull, I'd like to say that we're a nation of laws, but apparently that's starting to be, there's a gray area there apparently where there shouldn't be. Let's see. Wow, everybody. Okay, hey, Captain America's joining in, yeah. How you doing, brother? So Joy Vey says it's one thing I think he means if you let in only them, but another to bring in parents, cousins, brothers, and I even think that letting them in. I mean, what does that do for our process? What does that do for like the person that said the nation of laws? What does that do for our nation of laws? We just say, well, we ignored it for years and years and years, and so now that you're here, we're just gonna ignore that happened. Well, I'd like to do that with some speeding tickets and some other things too. Just, it's been years and years and years. Just let it happen. And that's far less impactful on society than illegal immigration. Yes, Dan Rodriguez, I agree. I'm glad you're not driving, brother. You get a little rest. I say, look, I think I would be comfortable discussing or seeing a discussion on a plan for a path to citizenship for any of these dreamers that came to the country illegally and then served in the United States military honorably, or not dishonorably. I can see that. I can understand that. It still kind of drives at me, but I guess my support of the sacrifice of joining the service and standing and fighting for this country and serving this country supersedes my feeling against, wrongfully rewarding criminal activity, which is what that is illegal immigration and then giving them citizenship. So I can see that. I could see sorry, I'm not catching you guys' comments right now, but I can see a pathway for, dreamers. I think that if they were here as dreamers, if they were here as children, and they're now adults here, like they've crossed that threshold, and they meet certain qualifications, that I could see a possible type of a visa program, a short term, like, okay, you meet these, and they would have to be stringent. And again, I'm just talking, kind of out my rear here. These are things that I could see as, I think, reasonable discussions. I'm trying to be as reasonable minded as possible with this. I could see a reasonable discussion about dreamers that came here, like I said, as juveniles, now are adults, don't have criminal records, and are attempting to be productive in society, or doing their part. I could see them having a special visa where they then are on path to citizenship, but they only have a certain period of time and they can't screw up and yada, yada, yada. But if their parents were here, their parents came over, and now they're still here illegally and they haven't, well, no, you got to go back, start the process. You don't have that leeway. So, and along with the juveniles that are still underage, they need to go with their parents back. I'm sorry, but there has to be a line somewhere. There has to be a threshold. That's right, Lewis. We do. We need to talk about this, but it seems like there's no discussion. It's either amnesty for everyone, or build the wall and electrify it. And there's no real human discussion. It seems like what are we really talking about? Is it we seem to want to have these conversations, and I say we, I mean one side of the political aisle in particular seems to want to have these conversations about the humanity of things when it comes to topics like abortion. Well, we apparently have to consider all of abortion based on, the few rare occasions of rape or incest where then that leads to a pregnancy. So they want us to consider all of that. Well, it's the same type of an argument. You can't. We just have to understand, I think, that we have to have a discussion about there's exceptions to the rule. And we can deal with exceptions to the rule. I think that we have that capacity, especially if we find the $21 trillion that's missing from the DOJ and the HUD or wherever the hell it left or forgot. It's probably right next to those 50,000 text messages, which, by the way, they found. We'll talk about that. But back on track is the discussion. The discussion, I think, can be made for a couple of exceptions. Will that take more time and more money to process through all those? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Some will say no. But I tell you, the left says, well, they want to claim that these are some of the best and brightest in the country. Well, if that's the case, then let's do a little vetting. Let's get the best and brightest, or let's even get the ones that have the possibility of. I'm great with possibilities. But we've got to do something about it to finalize it, and I'm okay. And I understand, our children are dreamers too. American kids are dreamers too. I agree with you 100%. I think that it can be okay if we set up realistic and rational plans based on rational discussions. And Amy, I don't know. We have to determine what those exceptions are. I think some exceptions would be someone that served, under honorable conditions in the military. I think another exception would be someone that came here as a DACA immigrant who came here as a child and then now is an adult and is, while here illegally, but came here under their kind of DACA influence. I think that those people, I could see a discussion about the creation of a special visa. I don't know if that's the right answer. I'm just saying, Amy, that might be one of the exceptions. I think it's worth talking about, at least. I think it's worth a discussion. To talk about those types of exceptions. So, but 1.8 million carte blanche? No, we can't do it. You have to draw a line. We have to draw a line, and I'm even okay with drawing a line tight and then expanding it from there. You're right. Kyle says the American dream has to be earned and worked for, not handed out like candy. You're absolutely right. And I think that you almost, if you guys understand the scientific method, right, where you have a basic rule, basic rule that you test everything against. It's also like in an organization where you have a mission statement. You test things against that. And I like what Kyle Bull said. He said the American dream, to repeat, has to be earned and worked for, not handed out like candy. That's almost, you could say that's a type of a mission statement. So I think if you challenge your exceptions, like Amy was talking about. She asked what exceptions. I think that part of at least a point to start the discussion would be, let's address these exceptions or possible exceptions against Kyle Bull's basic mission statement, like a dreamer that comes and serves in the military. Kyle Bull says the American dream has to be earned and worked for, not handed out like candy. I think someone that serves under honorable conditions, that's not handed out like candy. It's earned and worked for, right? I think most of you probably agree with at least that that's a discussion topic that could be had, whether you agree completely or not. Same thing with, like I said, coming here as a minor, working through school, maybe going to college, or maybe not, but working a job, paying your rent, staying out of trouble, not getting arrested. I actually, you know what, unfortunately, in today's day and age with the kids nowadays, with how much, especially in inner cities, how much trouble that there is and how hard it is for them to apparently get through childhood without having a criminal record, I would say that if an illegal immigrant came here as a child and now is a 23-year-old adult and doesn't have a criminal record and has been living in LA their whole life, I'd say they put in some pretty darn hard work. But, again, open for discussion. So let's see. Tim Best says DACA doesn't eliminate the need for a wall. Filling immigration, judge posts, and then fixing birthright citizenship. Yep, agree. The DACA and the wall are two different conversations almost, two different arguments almost. They're two different issues. One is border security. One is a population discussion, population of illegal versus legal. These are populations that are already here, so it's really almost two different arguments, but or two different discussions. But the interesting thing is that he puts in here, and I'll see if I can find it for you. I believe it's $25 million. I believe it's $25 million for the wall and other immigration funding. So this is, well, now I can't find it. I believe he was asking for or saying, demanding in return, that it was a $25 million return. Here it is. So the proposal would also put billion. Right here, if you guys can see that, $25 billion in what the White House referred to as a trust fund that could be used for building walls or fences along the southern border, as well as for other security purposes. So basically, they're saying, yeah, you guys are right. You caught 25 billion. Sorry. This is where I think Lewis was alluding to, and the other person, I'm sorry, I can't recall your name, about the art of the deal. This is, Kayla says a good idea, Susan, I'll check it out. I didn't see what you said. Is that where you said we decide who comes and goes? Yeah, I mean, that's essentially, vetting. We're talking about by nature, by the person, by their situation. So off welfare, off housing, right, Brenda? See, those are good. Those are good things to bring up in the conversation. It's like I think if I'm following you, Brenda B, that if a person maybe came here as a 14-year-old illegally, they've gone through school, they've stayed out of trouble, they have a job, they're not on welfare, they're paying their taxes, they're not being a drain, they've taken advantage of their opportunity being here. I would say, I think if that's where you're going with that, Brenda B, yeah, I think there's room for discussion, at least for some type of a program. Now, out of 1.8 million, there might only be 100,000 of them. I don't know. There might be 1 million of them. I don't know. And I don't care how many. I don't care what the number is. What I care is the quality of the people. I don't care if it's 10 people or if it's 10 million. Well, I do care if it's 10 million. But you understand what I mean. If it's 1 million or if it's 10,000, it's quality. We have the right, and we have the right to have borders, to have laws, to have rules, and to be able to be selective on how our country grows and how it's affected by immigration. We're not saying no to immigration. Good Lord. The United States has never said no to immigration. And don't say, oh, the only people that have claim to the United States is the Native Americans. There's extended proof that people traveled to this continent over land bridges from both Africa and Asia, I believe. So just, let's stop talking. Let's talk about today. We have the issues today. We have immigration issues today. So I agree with you, Brenda B. Sandy says she's hearing it's 3.6 million. I would believe that. It's probably at least twice what they say, right? At least twice what they say. So, I don't know. This is Lewis, like the good old Dr. Michael Savage says, borders, language, culture. Yep. If you don't have the borders, you're bound to lose the rest. You're going to lose language. You're going to lose culture. Now, every country has borders. Every country decides who can come and who can go. Why? Well, why is the United States different? Why are we expected to be different? Why are we expected to not hold the same values to our country and our land as everyone else? That's a part of the conversation that I'll never understand. So, good fences make good neighbors, says Amy. Yes, I can understand that. I agree. I've had some neighbors that I was very thankful for having a fence. So, what do you guys say about the missing FBI text messages? Now, the word is now that they've found them. They said it was a glitch. The analytical hillbilly says, why is it our responsibility to take care of the world? You're right. Exactly. It's not. It's not. I think that the United States as a whole is fantastic humanitarian. Besides when we, bomb people in countries that we shouldn't be, but our humanitarian efforts haven't stopped. I mean, decades we've been doing it. Let's see here. Trying to just check a couple of your messages. If they disrespect our president, our laws, and our people, they should be deported. I think I understand where you're at, Susan Leclerc, with that. Again, I would say that it has to be a little more scientifically lined out for what would constitute deporting or having the ability to, to find citizenship. I know I'm not taking what you're saying literal. I know that there's some expression and some passion in that. But, thank God we have the ability in this country to disrespect our president. Because the last 8 years, we would have been in real trouble if we couldn't have. It would have gotten out of control. Yeah, Dan, so you're right. So the word is that this glitch apparently affected more than just Peter Strzok and Lisa Page's text messages, even though that's the way it was first reported. And you know what? I can believe that because, of course, the mainstream media is going to just jump on it and say, oh, they just lost the 50,000 from Strzok, and they make it sound like it's a conspiracy. And, and that's easy to believe, too, with all the garbage going on. So, excuse me. Norman G. King says there's software that can recover deleted text messages, and the police and FBI have it. So the story that they could not be recovered is false. Yes. And Dan says the glitch doesn't matter anyway. The NSA has them. No, Dan. The NSA doesn't spy on other government officials. Remember, they're all working together. This is all like this kind of secret society, this underground coup kind of backup plan. Well, what they call a backup plan, we call a coup, but the backup plan to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. So the NSA doesn't have FBI's text messages. They have all of ours. They have all of mine. I laughed this last summer when stuff was really hot and heavy and we were out in the streets. We used to laugh. Like, I hope there's about 5 FBI agents assigned to listening to and tracking all my phone calls and messages. I used to talk to them all the time. Like, hey, gentlemen, how's the coffee? How's it going? You're watching tonight. You know who else is watching tonight is probably Michael Hardy, that turd from the Texas Observer. That's right. If you're watching this later, caught your article, you lying son of a beach. If any of you caught that article about Little Cambodia in the Texas Observer, I know I'm going off track here a little bit, but this turd, Michael Hardy, I think that's his name, Michael Hardy, Michael Handy, Jack Handy, Jack off, whatever his name is. I wish that I had the money currently right now, or somebody had the resources to sue this bastard for slander, because he basically not only lied to us when he came after the article saying that it was supposed to be a piece to shed light on the need in Little Cambodia, which I'll get to that and tell you guys about Texas, catch you up. But it was a lie. It was a hit piece and a slander piece from the beginning. So, Michael Hardy. That's right. That's right, Kevo. So, Amy might be going back to Little Cambodia? All right, right on. I just got back from there, but we were talking about, a real trip to try and help out. So, no. Oh, Texas Observer. Of course, Maya Shea loved that. She just thought that was... I know they were there trolling. They were trolling us. He's been trolling. He took quotes from things that I said on this radio show. So that just makes me happy, because at least he had to listen to the show to discover some of the quotes and things that he could pull out and use out of context. So at least, you know what? At least we probably had a shot at educating him a little bit. So I hope you learned something there, Michael Hardy. Michael Hardy. I almost called you, Michael, when I was down in Houston. I almost called you to come down and see what we were, doing in Rockport and also in Little Cambodia again. And but I didn't, because I just don't like giving attention and spending time with liars and deceitful, dishonest people. Yeah. And that's what you are. So, back to the FBI, because Michael Hardy's not that important. Trust me. Although I did see when I got on the American Airlines flight home, I opened up the little American Airlines magazine, and there was Michael Hardy. I am not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. The same turd. He wrote an independent piece, and I didn't read it. I don't know what it was. I wasn't that interested. I already read one of his pieces of garbage. So, anyway, kind of funny. You're getting around there, Michael Hardy. Just keep spreading the lies, brother. Keep spreading the lies. Resist. Ay. So, the FBI. So, yes, the word on the street is that the glitch affected multiple devices. Okay? But there has been some of these texts that now are released that are coming out that are, of course, the discussion of secret society. People are concerned about that. Of course, the left is trying to diminish that. The talk about this has kind of, the rhetoric has kind of toned down since they came out and said that they found the text messages. So I just say, if they found the text messages, let's get them. Let's see them, boys. Come on. Amy Thomas says that I need to call you. You got Hardy nailed. All right, I'll give you a call. Susan, you missed us. You're in Alabama. All right. You got to watch your daughter graduate from Virginia College with honors. Right on. Congratulations. Very much. I think that's awesome. Dawn Sharp, just like ISIS was the JV. Exactly. So here's an interesting thing that came out in some of these emails, and we'll just pull up this other article and show you. So this is actually the FBI in some of these text messages that... Here it is right here. Page texted Strzok, February 25th, 2016. Hope that's blown up enough so you guys can see that. This right here. One more thing. She might be our next president. So they're considering what they're doing based on how good they're going to look. Right here she says, the last thing you need is to go in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI? So what is that? What's that context? I mean, I know we're kind of guessing, but you think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI? More DOJ than FBI what? More DOJ than FBI that had influence on burying Trump with lies and making sure that she got elected? So is this allude to a more like quid pro quo, more, you pat my back, I'll pat yours, so that these FBI agents wanted to make sure that the new expected president-elect would know that it was the FBI that was the dirtiest. We were dirtier than the Department of Justice. We did more espionage than the DOJ, so we should get more money in our budget and bigger raises. I mean, I'm assuming that that's probably where it was going. That's the only thing that I can assume. I don't know what, other than being specifically interested in political espionage, I can't think of what the other reasoning would be for these FBI agents to do this. And how do you get to this level? Were they appointed to this level? Did they just like promote up to that level, or was it because of their willingness throughout the years to do shady crap like this? I mean, it's got to make you wonder. Let's see. Diane La Rosa. We need to get our country straight. And they could go home and start the process on their side with the expense in their backyard. I can't disagree with you. Welcome, Charmin and Heather. Welcome. So that's my question, is not only is this an issue, obviously this is an issue, but this is an issue that we've been dealing with. But I want to try and look a little deeper, like how really extravagant of a plan was going on with our upper level government investigative agencies, our federal investigative agencies. So the text messages that were provided raised serious concerns about the impartiality of senior leadership running both the Clinton and Trump investigations. Well, of course, because it was this guy right here both times. Peter Strzok, he just was days off. He was days off the Clinton investigation when he got put on the Trump investigation. I mean, it's almost like, oh, bring in the ringer. Bring in the ringer. So, Grassley, the Iowa Republican, he said that he looked at him and he says the exchanges concern him. That was his quote that I read that said the text messages that were provided raised serious concerns about the impartiality of senior leadership running both the Clinton and the Trump investigations. So these, there's some new texts that were released. Of course, there was some released back in October, from a text conversation that happened back in October, talking about secret meetings, talking about secret society, basically referencing, it sounded like kind of a joke, but you know where there's a joke, there's always some seriousness. And they say, they reference these little monikers of these names. It's right here. So Republicans arguing some top officials at the FBI are politically biased against Trump have seized the text messages, including one where Strzok and Page spoke of, quote, secret society within the Department of Justice and the FBI. These are things that have come out before about the insurance policy. We have to have a backup plan, things of that nature. It also, it appears that Strzok and Page transmitted federal records pertaining to the Clinton investigation on private non-government services. Well, that's no surprise. It's important to determine whether their own similar conduct was a factor in not focusing on and developing evidence of similar violations by Secretary Clinton and her aides. You think? Let's see. FBI agents transmitting federal records, probably classified, at least some of them, pertaining to the Clinton investigation. So obviously it's classified because it's an active FBI investigation on an ex-Secretary of State. I would assume that those investigative records are classified. Would you not? Would you not? And by using non-government services, of course, why are they going to develop evidence on Hillary Clinton about doing the things that they're doing at the same time? The whole thing is smoke and mirrors. The whole thing is cover-up from the very beginning. She knew. That's why when we were sitting around thinking, God, the audacity. How could she possibly even think of running for president when she's under an FBI investigation that we all knew that she should be charged with crimes for? All the pay to play, all the just on and on and on and on, the corruption. But yet all along she just smiled in a pantsuit. Why? Because she knew all along she had weaponized federal agencies. She had weaponized the FBI. Not she had been a part of it through under Obama's administration, but on her side, she had that on her side, weaponized DOJ and the weaponized FBI. Of course, we know the meeting on the tarmac. Oh, talking about our grandchildren. Yeah, hogwash, garbage. Susan, you make a good point. Who can we trust when our FBI and DOJ is so corrupt? And that is exactly what brings us to the 4-page memo. It's exactly what brings us to the memo. Where's the memo? Why are we, do you understand that I think in a lot of other countries, this is a memo that, here, let me get to the article. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this, but Representative Gates, we've talked about his reaction before, right? And he says, quote, and he saw it, he says he's predicting that the contents will shock the conscience of this country. Now, you have to think these people are, and when I say these people, I mean these representatives, like Representative Gates, they're very attuned to language. They're very attuned to the vernacular and to the verbiage that they use because they deal with lawyers or they are lawyers and they deal with the legality and the lawyers that are within the, I guess, legislative process. So they're very particular about words. So it's interesting and also sentence formation. You know, that's a lot of how we get this garbage that's in law now. That's how a lot of it ends up getting into law that we don't realize is because it's hidden in this kind of goofy language that most of us have a harder time understanding than, you know, straightforward. We call just lay language, lay English. So he says, sorry, I was just catching your comments there. When he says shock the conscience of this country, I think, why would he say shock the conscience? Well, to shock the conscience, it means that I would think that it's waking something from the unconscious, something that we've seen, it's there, it's like we all knew, but it's just this is going to be a shock. And there's multiple quotes. They're saying it's shocking, it's so important, names are named. This is, Gates says, here, I'll just show you. I don't know what I'm telling you. I'm off track a little bit tonight. Gates, right here. There are 4 pages of a memorandum. I know we talked about this before. There are 4 pages of a memorandum prepared by the Intelligence Committee. Okay, now that Intelligence Committee, they reviewed, I want to say, 100-page document, and that's the memo that apparently Alex Jones has, but it's full 100 pages. I mean, you've got to go through so much to get to the bottom of it. Well, this Intelligence Committee did it, and they put out this 4-page brief, this 4-page memo. And how you doing, Nathan? Nathan Mizrahi in the house. How you doing, LSM Militia? Good to see you, brother. The committee reviewed that, and that's where this 4-page memo came out. So, prepared by the Intelligence Committee that will shock the conscience of this country when it comes to the horrific abuses, not just abuse, not just maltreatment, not just like what we saw with Hillary Clinton's, final outcome from DOJ, where it was, what was it? Not gross negligence, it was extreme carelessness. No. We're not talking extreme carelessness anymore. We're talking horrific abuses that occurred during the last administration and that I believe continue to pose a threat to Donald Trump's presidency. Let me read that again, that last part. That will shock the conscience of this country when it comes to the horrific abuses that occurred during the last administration Well, the only horrific abuses really during the last administration that really have come out is, of course, the attack on conservatives, the IRS, and of course now we're seeing the FBI and DOJ, right? So that we must be talking about these horrific abuses, which means it's much more worse than what we thought, which of course we knew, that I believe continue to pose a threat to Donald Trump's presidency. For some reason, he believes that what's in this document, that tells me it's still going on, that these people are still in place, which tells me they've got to be up higher level. I mean, we're talking high-level officials. We're talking Rosenstein. We're talking Mueller. We're talking Comey. We're talking Lynch. Who knows where this is all going to go, but you guys, it's not getting better, and it is going to get worse before it gets better. Just be prepared for that. This memo is going to come out. The longer it takes, the more concerned I am about it. And you know what's interesting is the Intelligence Committee, when they voted on whether to bring it out or not, of course every single Democrat voted not to release it to the rest of Congress, let alone to the people, just to the rest of Congress. They wanted to keep it in their own little committee. And you're telling me that our government represents us? Why would anybody... If this is so horrific, when people in the Congress saw it, that it's so horrific that they are calling on the president to release it, but yet somewhere off in some room was this private little committee that all the Democrats in there decided, you know what, no, this information right here, this should just stay between us. Yeah. This will be our little secret. That's what they think about you. That's the amount of respect that they have for you as Americans, as American citizens, all of us. Gates continued and said all Americans need to see what was happening to undermine this president, duly elected. That sounds to me like there's a major shocker in there that we are not going to even believe that our government was allowed to do. And I honestly think they're afraid of a march on Washington to demand a complete removal of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and at least of the top leaders. A complete removal. I can't believe that. It would not shock me right now if there were 1 million people in the streets calling for a march on Washington right now just to release the damn memo. Because if congressmen and congresswomen are this upset about it and calling for this extreme of measures, I mean, that tells me that we the people, they're our representatives. They're telling us. They're flat out telling us, you guys, you need to know this. And when you find this out, you are going to be shocked. You are not even going to believe what is in this memo. That's what they're saying to us right now. And what are we all doing? We're sitting at home. And I'm just as guilty as everyone else. I'm ready to march now too, Don. I am. Why is our government allowed? Why is our government permitted to even fathom, to even contemplate the idea that you should be privy to information on corruption within our government, but we shouldn't? What part of the people, by the people, for the people is not translating to modern English language? What part of representatives is not translating today? Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate that. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. Excuse me. I think that when it comes to points in time like this, where we have this level of corruption, of secrecy, we've gone a lot farther off the deep end than we thought. I see I see your comment, Beth, and I did see that Pelosi and Schiff are now saying that the hashtag release the memo, is trending because of Russian bots. I did read that too. They're calling on they're calling on Twitter and Facebook, I believe, to do a query of all of anybody that posted or commented the hashtag release the memo, because they want to survey those for Russian bot accounts. Like, seriously? Really? You think that, again, they think that we are this stupid. They think that there's no possible way that the American people could be onto them and be angry about this memo, because they've gotten away with it for so long. They haven't ever been called on the carpet, because a lot of the times it's been the do-nothing Democrats and the rest easy Republicans and the rhinos that have been on the same side. That's why we haven't heard about any of it, because they've just been allowing each other to do it. Just keep it going back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, Russian bots. Come on. Come on. Because the American people are just too ignorant. There's no way that they would come up with this on their own, and that they would be so infuriated that they would spread the hashtag release the memo. No, not at all. The American people, they don't want to know the secrets that are going on in their country. Give me a break. Really, Dan says he's pretty sure that Twitter already told them that there was no Russian involvement. That would be my carte blanche answer if I was in charge at Twitter. That's it. QAnon released something again. I did hear that. I saw something about QAnon releasing a post that Obama had retained counsel, but I didn't even get to confirm that at all, so I don't usually bring that stuff up. But anyway, so that's where we're at with that. What do you guys? You guys have anything else to add on this part? I mean, I can't. I can't fathom what is actually going on in their minds. I'll try and show you guys this video. We'll see if it'll come through okay for you. And then we'll get on to talking. Whoa!
There is now a report that will show us and shock us about the abuses. Can you tell us about that report?
There are 4 pages of a memorandum prepared by the Intelligence Committee that will shock the conscience of this country when it comes to the horrific abuses that occurred during the last administration and that I believe continue to pose a threat to Donald Trump's presidency. It is so important, Judge Jeanine, that we are fighting to get this memo released to all of the American people. I don't think the right answer is just to allow members of Congress to be horrified and outraged. All Americans need to see what was happening to undermine this president duly elected.
How do we release this information? When do I get to see it?
Yeah.
Well, at any moment in time, the intelligence chairman, who has done an excellent job, Devin Nunes, can schedule a vote in the Intelligence Committee. If the Intelligence Committee votes to declassify this information, and if President Trump doesn't overrule that, it will immediately become available to the American people, and that is necessary.
Who wrote it?
This is a composite memo drafted by the staff of the Intelligence Committee, and it highlights various conclusions that will truly shock the consciousness.
But what do you mean it highlights whose conclusions?
Well, names.
Okay, one thing that bothers me, if you noticed, he started back in with the answer, and he was repeating the same exact words and the same exact verbiage. And any time that I hear a politician say that, I mean, that's just disingenuous. It's like a canned answer. It's like he's repeating it. So I don't know. I mean, when I say question everything, I mean question everything. Like, is there something? Was it scripted? Maybe it was. I don't know. Judge for yourself here.
are named. The names that we've talked about in the news associated with the corruption that is posed to president.
McCabe, and
Here you go.
Strzok, and
Here you go.
who else?
Well, I can't go into the specific names until we share that information, but I can say this. Names are named, and you also get to see the interaction between the various people that we've been discussing and the organizations and entities that had a stake in the outcome in the 2016 election. So going from a point in time where we have just a series of data points and characters to actually assembling that into a fact pattern, it tells a lot to the American people about what was really going on in our government.
When is Devin Nunes going to schedule this for a vote?
Well, he said he wanted to hear from more members of Congress. 64 of us have already sent him a letter.
On the phone, you could do that in an hour.
I spoke to him today on the floor.
Yeah, what are we waiting for?
Chairman Nunes, Bob Goodlatte, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and Trey Gowdy are working together on the timing of this. But I think this is so important, so shocking, it should be public immediately, and we're pressing the timetable.
Tell me what we're going to be shocked about.
I think we'll be shocked not only at the way information was collected, but the way that that information was authenticated. And I can't go into any details, but only to say that you're aware as a judge of the way evidence has to be authenticated and presented to a court to get a warrant. And
It has to be probable cause
of
to
course,
sign a warrant.
of course,
Yeah.
and prosecutors and investigators cannot perpetrate frauds on the court by presenting false information or information they know to be false.
All right, so let's assume that we're talking
There
about
it is.
Bruce Orr, Lisa Orr,
Thank God for Nunes, that's
McCabe,
right.
Strzok, possibly Rosenstein, Jim Comey. I don't want to hear
Lynch.
if any
Don't
of
forget
what you're
Loretta Lynch.
suggesting is true, that these guys get to dictate when they're going to retire. My viewers want them taken out in cuffs. If they
That's
violated
right.
the law, they need to be taken out in cuffs.
That's
Is
right.
that going to happen?
Well, heads are going to roll. I believe.
What does that mean?
Well, I believe crimes were committed. I read
So
this
now
memo.
you got to send it to Jeff Sessions.
Okay,
assuming
wait
that
a
he's
minute.
got-
Wait a minute. He believes crimes were committed. He's saying right there, I believe crimes were committed. Now, if you're aware of a crime at that level, I mean, when you're talking a crime of that nature at that level, are you not? Is there not some? I mean, I'm not a lawyer or a law enforcement officer, but is there not some duty to report? Is there not some duty to investigate by the AG or, well, I guess the Department of Justice can't really investigate itself very well, can it? So who's going to investigate him? The FBI? The FBI can't investigate the DOJ. The DOJ can't investigate the FBI. The NSA is too busy tracking years and minds, phone calls and text messages. The CIA, God only knows, they're still, I think, working on the war on drugs or some shit like that. And funneling weapons to, the next group of insurgents to disrupt a government in another country so that we can invoke our ideals on them. I don't know who's going to investigate. I don't know. But he says that he claims that there was crimes committed. He says he believes there's crimes that were committed.
Got a Justice Department that's going to be fair.
Well, we need Jeff Sessions to be the Attorney General, not an employee at the Justice Department. That's been one of the major problems, is that he hasn't exercised sufficient control of that agency. I think he did a great job as a senator, but as Attorney General...
Yeah, right now he's AG. It doesn't matter about when he was
Right,
senator.
exactly.
Congressman Gates. I can't wait to read it.
Hopefully soon.
Oh, God, I can't wait to read it either. Oh, so there you go. Wow. Brian Hayes, why has no one picked up on how quietly Bernie Sanders walked away for losing to Hillary and knowing he was cheated, but said nothing? Yeah, I've wondered that too. He just, in fact, even backed her and supported her. It's incredible, but yeah, Bernie, sneaky little Bernie. Frank Posh says, I'm doubting Sessions' motives. I am as well. I think it's good to question the motives right now of pretty much any of them. And I think that anyone in that position or in a similar position in the government, if they come forward and say anything but, please question me, then I don't want anything to do with you. Because right now, if you are a servant of the public, if you're an elected official, and you are serving as political and legislative representation, I think right now, at this day and age and this time climate politically, that you should be opening up your pockets. And I don't mean for money. I mean turn them inside out. You should be dedicated to being as transparent as humanly possible, if you want to have the respect of the American people today. I think this needs to be a change in politics where we just demand transparency. I mean, if this, how many, what was it, 12 million or 12 million that was paid out on federal level sexual harassment claims? And we've got money being paid on sexual harassment claims. We've got trillions of dollars being lost in the DOJ, which of course is the same DOJ that sounds like is going to be called out in this 4-page memo for years of horrific abuses, as quoted from Representative Gates. Frank says, I think the ones stalling are involved. I believe you are correct. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Because if you're not screaming right now for the release of this memo, and you live in this country, I'm sorry, but you are in some way, shape, or form either implicated or directly affected by its release, which is probably why every single Democrat voted against releasing it to the Congress, because they know that it's probably a huge atomic bomb to the DNC and to their corruption of decades of corruption. So. Oh, yay. Sorry, my voice is bland and monotone tonight because I'm still fighting this cold and talking too much. I want to see the Clintons come out. I want to see the Clintons come out of it. At least Hillary. I think they both ought to go down. I mean, there's texts between Strzok and Page talking about, I relayed our idea or our plan to Bill. Well, Bill who? Gee, I wonder which Bill. Couldn't be the same Bill that was talking about the grandchildren on the tarmac with his good old pal, Loretta Lynch. Bunch of liars. Hang on, I gotta plug in my phone. I lost your guys' comments. Alright. I'm back. I gotta wait for it to turn back on now because Whoa. Forgot it wasn't charged. Technical difficulties. Alright. So, let's, since I can't see your comments right now, let my phone turn back on here so I can check them out. Let's see what's going on here in New York. So there was a Night for Freedom event. Of course, this was Mike Cernovich and some other alt-right, or as they're referring to themselves now, New Right. I love how the names change and the narrative changes. It's like this ongoing narrative battle. Well, you're alt-right. Well, you're alt-left. We're the New Right. Well, you're not New Right because you're just racist. Well, we're not racist. You're communist. Well, we're not communist. We're socialist. What's the difference? I mean, it just goes back and forth. But here we are in New York. A 56-year-old was outside this Night for Freedom event. Antifa attacked him. He was taken away in an ambulance. He was. This was a gathering of the New Right and Trump supporters, organized by Mike Cernovich. The man was reportedly leaving the event when he was set upon by members of Antifa. I love how they put Antifa in quotes. Do you have to put Antifa in quotes? Who are classified as domestic terrorist organization by U.S. security agencies. Only in a couple states, but he is right. So he's currently in stable condition, the gentleman. One Antifa member involved in the assault, David Campbell of Crown Heights, Brooklyn, was arrested on charges of assault, strangulation, criminal obstruction of breathing, that's interesting, resisting arrest, criminal possession of a weapon, and loitering. I love that they charged him with loitering. They're getting him for trying to basically assault and strangle this 56-year-old man. But they charge him with loitering. I mean, that's good. That means they're just trying to pin him with whatever they can, and I think that's what they need. I love also how you get charged with strangulation and criminal obstruction of breathing. That was a new one for me too. So there we go. This is what I wanted to show you though. Let's see if I can get this right and get it at the right time. I think it's there. So I want you all to try. Listen very closely. I want to have a little short discussion about what is said here. So listen very closely. Let me make sure that your volume is up. Okay.
We can say blah, 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 blah. Fuck we want. I can say, fuck you, you're a dirty pig, and you're a piece of shit. I can say that, I can say...
Try it one more time.
We can say blah, 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 blah. Fuck we want. I can say, fuck you, you're a dirty pig, and you're a piece of shit. I can say that,
Okay. So the reason I wanted to, excuse me, I should have warned you about the profanity that was in there. The reason I wanted to bring this up was because it's so often that we see, especially at these events and these rallies, anything that's free speech or freedom or rights or constitutional rights or Trump or Americanism or patriotism or any of those, and we see folks like this show up, and their whole thing is free speech doesn't extend to what they call hate speech. And they say if you're saying things that are hateful, if people are saying things that are hateful or insinuating hate, that's not covered, that's not free speech, and that shouldn't be allowed. But yet you can hear them clearly in the background saying, we can say whatever the F we want. We can stand here and call you an F in this and an F in that because that's our right. We can do that. Well, I want to take this clip and just have it on a device, a handheld device right there for the next conversation that I get into with one of these kids one of these people, primarily from a younger generation that believes in anarchy and communism and socialism, and just show them that. Like, what? Okay, at some point, the hypocrisy has to become so laughable that even they realize it. And I think that the only way to put it to them is literally like that, right in front of them. Like, what are you saying? Why is it that you believe that you can sit there and say that the police are F this and F that, and that you claim I can say whatever the F I want? Well, you know what? So can everyone else. So get over it. Don't worry about it. Stop complaining about it. Stop going out in the streets and wreaking havoc about it because you want ultimately, we're on the same side. We're on the same team. We believe in the same thing. You believe that you should be able to say whatever the F you want, quoting your own words. Well, you know what? I believe that I should be able to say whatever the F I want, too. So let's shake on it. You go say whatever you want. I'll just go say whatever I want. I'm not going to come and attack you. Never did. And you're not going to come and attack me. And then we can get on to focusing on the real problem, the real issues. The federal government, the overreach on the land use and the land grabs, the overreach with obviously our investigative agencies and the FBI and the DOJ and the IRS and the CIA. We can get on to talking about the issues, like we can have the real discussions about immigration like we were starting to have earlier in the show. Those are real discussions. Those are real conversations. Those are things worth losing my voice over. This garbage, it's just not. It's just not worth it. So I just wanted to show you guys that. I thought it was telling. I thought it was interesting. Maybe not interesting, but telling. You know, of how difficult it is to get through rational concepts to people who can't even rationalize and conceptualize their own hypocrisy. It's the hardest thing to do. It's the absolute most difficult debate that I've ever been involved in, is with people like this. So there we go. Antifa hospitalizes another one. I hope that the guy goes to jail. I hope he goes to jail for a good long few years at least. And I hope it sends a message to the rest of them that anarchy doesn't pay, kids. It's not the revolution. Anarchy is not the revolution that you are seeking. Trust me, it's not. What you want is less government. That's the revolution you're seeking. Just come and have a conversation with me. Trust me, I think that we can work it out and get to the bottom of it. Anarchy is not what you are seeking. Freedom is what you are seeking. You just don't realize it yet. You're begging, you're claiming all of the rights of a patriot, that you want to say whatever you want to say, go wherever you want to go, live your life how you want to live your life, dress how you want to dress, sleep with whoever you want to sleep with, marry whoever you want to marry. That you're libertarian, you just don't realize it. A lot of Republicans are libertarians and they don't realize. A lot of Democrats are libertarians, they don't realize. A lot of constitutionists are libertarians. A lot of libertarians are constitutionists. There's just a name for everything. The bottom line is that 90% of us, I believe, really truly just want to be left alone. That's it. It's that simple. Well, I'll tell you who's getting left alone is our soldiers. They're getting left alone in their pocketbook. We're on the third day, I think, third or fourth day of government shutdown now. And this is, let's see, the Senate adjourned early Sunday. So this article is a little bit older, but I wanted to talk about this because of course, there's the talk back and forth who's responsible, the Democrats or the Republicans. And this is interesting because people say, oh, well, the Republicans have a House, a majority in the House, majority in the Senate. And you guys may have heard this before, but 51 to 49 is not a majority. It is a physical majority, but it is not a majority that gets you to be able to just pass whatever you want, because you got to have 60. So McConnell is hoping to have a vote soon to reopen the government, but Schumer is saying not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm not going to reopen it unless it has to do with amnesty. Now, I think that the Dems are making an even bigger mistake than they have in the past, because they're holding up the entire government, essentially, because they're not getting their way, because they're not getting what they want. They're not even saying that we'll talk about it later, because that's at least what what Trump is offering or proposing. Excuse me, try not to cough in your ear. So let me show you here if we are, there we go. So it's still coming to fruition. I think that it's a holdout. I think this has to do along with, of course, the spending, the DACA all comes into it, the wall. This is all part of a game. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm being cautiously optimistic that Trump has a bigger plan, that he presented this offering of giving amnesty to 1.8 million illegals in exchange for the $25 billion that would fund the wall, among other things. I think that, I foresee that maybe he already got told, like, there's no way. There is no way. There is nothing that I could just see Schumer being a whiny little, you know what, standing up there and telling the president, well, we're not going to sign any. There's no way that we would agree to anything that included funding the wall. It'll never happen. And so what did Trump do? Maybe he's calling their bluff and saying, oh, you want to pass the amnesty for 1.8 million illegals under the DACA program? Okay. Fund the wall, baby. Fund the $25 billion for the... And again, I'm not a huge, big physical, quote, wall. I think there's other proponent. I think there's other things that we can do. I'm not against it. I think it's fine. If it's there, it's going to do a great job. I think it'll help immigration a ton. But I could actually give up portions of funding of the physical wall if that money went to other things like veterans programs or hiring more officers along the border, things like that. But possibly, Trump was told this, and he's just calling their bluff. He's saying, fine, here you go. I'm calling it. Here's exactly what you want, but you got to give me what I want. And so we're about to find out. Yes, they have to have another vote by February 8th. That's right, Beth. Yeah, Susie, it did. What I'm going through is the basis of what led up to, I think, some of the hard lines, the hard line negotiation. at the point in this article, which this article I think was on the 21st, so it's been, I don't know, what is that, 4 days ago, I think. So the only reason, because I've been gone for 4 days, I should have clarified that. The shutdown is over, but I wanted to go over this because I think that we're seeing a little bit more from the deal of Trump than we even thought originally. So Dan says 1.8 million over 10 years, 180,000 a year. Well vetted. I could live with that. Wow, Dan, that's even going out there, because I don't believe that all of the 1.8 million would really qualify as being able to. I just don't see it. It's just not humanly possible. You could take 1.8 million Americans and they wouldn't all meet the requirements, but they are born here, so that's, we have to deal with them. Now that my phone's back on, let me see where you guys are at. The Analytical Hillbilly. I love that guy or girl, whoever you are. I don't know. Democrats have shown they care more about people from the outside of our country than here. Care more about people from outside of our country or here illegal than they do about American citizens. Yeah, that's a common, sentiment, and I don't have an argument against that. I think it's pretty obvious. I want to bring you guys this last little bit here because my voice is going downhill. George Soros. Now, we talk a lot about censorship. We talk a lot about the big media giants and just the control that they have, over social media, the control they have over our searches, the control they have over the news that we get. MS-13. Yeah, we're not even going to get into MS-13. Don Sharp, before we move on, Don Sharp says, there's no way we are going to grant citizenship to 2 million and their immediate family. What message does that send? What happened to principle? Whatever happened to principles? See, that's what I think. I just think there's just no way. I just don't believe. I'm having a really hard time believing that that President Trump would really expose a deal that could mean 1.8 million plus illegals getting citizenship and amnesty. I just don't buy it. I just don't think that he would run his campaign on build the wall and then give amnesty to 1.8 million. Come on, that would be that right there might even, if he did that, it might even kill his chances for re-election. Honestly, it really could. He ran a campaign on build the wall. He didn't just come out and say, I'm going to be strong on immigration. No, he said, I'm going to build a freaking wall. And then he said Mexico's going to pay for it. And then when Mexico said, no, we're not, he said, you know what? The wall just got 10 feet higher. And then he's going to all of a sudden give amnesty to 1.8 million? Come on. I don't think I buy that. I just don't buy it. Soros is funding rhinos for the 2018 election. That I believe. Yes, Dan. This is a battle. This is a deep state, a battle between the deep state and the we the people. Essentially, is what 18 is going to start, and I think it's going to carry on into 2020 for the other, like a lot of the state elections that are alternate, like here in Washington. So, speaking of Soros. This was kind of interesting when I first read this title, when I first read this headline. This is from Business Insider. So this came up under business news. I don't think you'll see this a lot because it's not showing up. I looked for it. It's not showing up in regular news. Amy Ray says, just because he's willing to talk about it doesn't mean he'll approve it. Possible, yep. Sandy Couch. You are exactly right. You are exactly right, ma'am. But what good is the wall if they're on this side of it? Right you are. And you've been doing some great things recently. I love watching what you're doing there, Callie. Sandy Couch, thank you for being here. Yep. So, George Soros. I mean, you read the title. George Soros calls Facebook and Google a menace to society and obstacles to innovation. So you're thinking, wow, really? Really? old Georgie boy has a little sense of common sense, but I don't think so. Not so quick, old Georgie boy. So this is at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. He launched, quote, an aggressive and multi-pronged attack on the tech giants, accusing them of monopolistic and anti-competitive behavior. So this is interesting because he says this. He says this on the surface. He says that they're encouraging addiction like gambling companies, which I agree with that, and called them obstacles to innovation. But then we get to what I think is the source of it. We get to what I think is the real issue with what he's really after. Because again, you can't take these turds for what they're on the surface. I mean, they stink on the surface. There's no doubt about it. But you get in there and you start digging around in this pile of turds, and it's going to get far worse. It just happens every time. This is the question everything. Is George Soros really coming out on this? I don't think so. So let me get to the part here. He calls them obstacles to innovation. And right here, I will agree with what he's saying, but he's using common sense. So this is the thing. He's using common sense and logic. See, this is where I think it's all this is a serious game because they show hints and signs of having common sense with things like this. When he says, social media companies influence, I'll highlight it right here. Social media companies influence how people think and behave without them even being aware of it. I agree. He adds that they have far-reaching adverse consequences on the functioning of democracy, particularly on the integrity of elections. Now, I have a problem with this. I have a little problem with this. I agree, social media companies influence how people think and behave because of censorship, and they do it without people being aware of it because of censorship, because if you don't know what you don't see, then you don't know that you didn't see it, therefore you don't know that there's other opinions other than what you were allowed to see, and that's what's happening. You're only seeing what you are allowed to see. But when he adds that far-reaching adverse consequences on the functioning of democracy, particularly on the integrity of elections, I don't like this part right here. Consequences on the functioning of democracy. It drives me nuts when these people reference the political process in our country as democracy. Now, I understand, yes, we have democratic practices. Yes, there is a form of democracy that we use. But the word is just used too often and too loosely, and I never see the word consequences on the functioning of our republic. Never says the consequences on the functioning of our constitutional republic. No, the word is never... a lot of people don't even know the difference. They don't even the constitutional republic. What's that? No, we're a democracy. No, we're not. So I have a problem with that. But that's not the point of this article. What is the point of the article? You ask. Well, here's what it is. Right here. Facebook's and Google's size, he argued, means they have become obstacles to innovation. He called for significantly more regulatory oversight of the companies. What does that mean? Net neutrality. And we've already had this discussion. We've already had this over and over and over again about the negatives and the pitfalls to net neutrality and the regulations and the restrictions that it places on the free market value that is in social media business and that is in the internet industry, and it regulates it. Why do you only have one or two possibly cable providers or phone providers? Because they're treated like utilities. They're over-regulated, they're over-restricted, which means they've had to get into lobbying, which means they've got a lock on the permitting process and the ability to even go into the business because they've had to invest so much money and so much time into dealing with the bureaucracy and the permitting and the laws that there's no way they're going to allow just another little guy to come in. So this is net neutrality. This is what he's calling for. Net tyranny. That's right, Don. Dan Rodriguez says, the definition, Soros can't manipulate what you see and think. He's pissed. Exactly. now that net neutrality is down, even though they're still trying to get it. So anyway, he called for significantly more regulatory oversight of the companies, holding up the European Union Competition Commissioner Margrethe Vestager as a model of that other regulators should emulate. I'll tell you what, I'm not even going to go deep into it. You just look up what she's done, what she has asked for and called for and done with regulating. No, censoring, limiting, because then they're going to regulate fake news. Well, then it's subjective. That's the thing with censorship. Censorship is subjective. It's always subjective, always, because there's always somebody or some body of persons that decides what should and should not be censored. It is always subjective. And by restricting someone's freedom to think, freedom to express, freedom to speak, freedom to assemble, maybe it's the freedom of their pursuit of happiness, that cannot be restricted on a subjective basis. This is why that these are unalienable rights. Unalienable means that you are not capable of giving them up. You cannot vote them away. Do you understand? You cannot give them up. They are yours. They are endowed to you at birth by your Creator. However you want to reference it or say it, they are yours. Being a human being alive gives you, not gives you, you are automatically endowed those rights. Period. Censorship violates them. It just does. I challenge you to give me an argument otherwise. Hitler had a lot of regulating. Yes, Dan, he did. That's how it starts. The book burning. It's the same thing. So, he says, the fact that they are near monopoly distributors makes them public utilities. Again, what do we all? This is net neutrality. This is all. He's using the vague veil covering of common sense, and using terminology that will ring with some conservatives, and he's using that as a cover, as an excuse. He's using words like monopoly and what was the other one? Addiction. And this was my favorite, where he says anti-competitive behavior. That's a play on free market. He's saying they're being anti-competitive behavior. It's all BS. It's all smoke and mirrors. The anti-competitive behavior is supporting net neutrality. That's anti-competitive. We have no net neutrality, so it is a competitive market. It's free. That's what brings competition. That's the basis of the free market. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all fake, people. It's all BS. All he cares about is he wants it to be treated like a public utility, which has net neutrality laws, which means he can then use money to influence. Anytime that you have government regulation on these things, money can then have a further influence on the process. It happens every time the government gets involved in something. How many times does it have to happen before we wake up? I'm awake. Are you? Before the rest of the world wakes up about it, or the rest of the country. He also says, and should subject them to more stringent regulations aimed at preserving competition, bullshit, innovation, bullshit, and fair and open universal access. Universal access. Love that word. It might as well be universal healthcare. How's that working out? Let's have just universal access. No. Let's just have a free market. Let's just have it so that if somebody's doing something shady and enough of the users get upset about it, they start looking for other options, which opens up the door for somebody that's not shady to come up and offer a similar service. This is how products and services improve over time. This is called free market enterprise. It works. In fact, it's the only economy that works to support a thriving first world country like this. Look it up. It's called history. He also says, now he is accurate on some of this. He says he's critical of the two companies' effects on people's minds, accusing them of deceiving users by manipulating their attention and directing it towards their own commercial purposes. I agree. I agree with him on that. They deliberately engineer addiction to the services they provide. Agree as well. They can be very harmful, particularly for adolescents. Agree again. There's a similarity between internet platforms and gambling companies. I would agree. There's all these visuals and things that play on the mind. But again, he's using these things that are common sense, the things that we agree on, right? We can sit here and go, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And then he goes, so they need more regulation. They should be treated like a utility. Wah, wah, wah. Nope. That's where you lose me there, Georgie boy. Here's one of our favorite little turds right here. Oh, Marky. He looks upset. He looks constipated, almost. Huh. Oh well. Hope everything works out all right for you, Marky. So, that is where we're at. When we say question everything, it's literal. I know we repeat it over and over and over, but it is literal. You have to look beyond the surface, and especially when it comes to someone like Georgie Soros. So, let me check in again with, he looks like he needs a throat punch. Let me check in with you guys' comments. And we are going to check out the Breitbart mainstream media rap sheet before we go. If you guys remember that, you can throw in your guesses. We were at 54 last time. It hadn't moved in a couple of days. I think 4 days it hadn't moved. And we were at, like I said, we were at 54. Those of you that don't know, this is a article by Breitbart that we have been following just about since the beginning. It started at 15, and it's called The Main Street Media's Accused, the rap sheet. It was at 15. There were 15 mainstream media personalities or people or employees that were fired or resigned for sexual harassment or other abuse or harassment at the work, and it had climbed all the way up to 54. So we got Tim Bess in with 55. Dan says 114. Dan, have you been drinking? It hasn't been that busy of a week, has it? Come on, you just got off a long day on the road, 114. I'd love to see it. I'd love to read. I would like to read the stories that went from 54 to 114. Susie says 56. So let's see. What do you guys all got? Naomi says 63. Like Hitler did. That's right, Charmaine. Don Sharp said, friends, we all know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. Fight for good. Don't let them take your free thought. Truth is not hate. Speak the truth always. That's right. Jacques Lapointe, thank you, sir. Good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. Daniel Gordon says, to hell with open borders. That's right. Still trust Flint water more than HRC, says Dan Rodriguez. You trust the water in Flint, Michigan more. That's funny. All right, Sandy says 72. Danae says 60. Constance says 57. Oh, Amy, you saw the number, so you can't play. So you know. Amy knows. Somebody in here hit it right on the head. One of you hit it right on the head. You got it. I wish I had a prize to give you right now, but I don't. Somebody hit it on the head. Oh, yeah, the coach guy. It was a very busy week, Naoma. That's right. Dan says 62. Dan says he's enjoying a cold one. I wish I was with you, brother. And I agree with what you're saying. I agree with a lot of what you say. All right. One person hit the nail on the head. Like I said, got it right. Susie Pazder. Susie Pazder. You got it right. 56. So we got to see who the latest two are to add. We'll close out tonight. We'll add this in here. So, of course, we ended down here with Joel Achenbach. That was the last one that we saw. And here we are. Ross Levinson, publisher and CEO of the Los Angeles Times. What? What? Are you serious? Come on. No, seriously? The CEO of the LA Times? That can't be true, right? Hey, Denise. Is that true? Hang on, I gotta see what this link is. Oh, site can't be reached. That's a bummer. Huh. Bummer. Wow, I'm gonna have to check that out. Ross Levinson, publisher and CEO of the Los Angeles Times, under investigation for sexual harassment and other acts of inappropriate behavior. And number 56, Robert Moore, managing editor of the New York Daily News, under investigation for sexual harassment. So this continues. Part of the reason why I follow this article, or we follow this article, is, oh, what happened with the book? No, Charmaine, yes, I was gonna go over that tonight too. My throat is killing me. Okay, tomorrow I've got to do that. I've got to catch you guys up. Yes, I got through section 3 in the book, and I have some things in the Islam and terrorism book to catch you up on. It was actually a really interesting section. It was more technical, more history, and it was more technical. So it might come across a little drier, but man, it was really interesting, and to me anyway. So yes, I will do that. I apologize. I had a week where I was out of town in Texas. Things got a little jumbled up, so I'm back now. Dan says, you're sending me a link to another Breitbart list of the same thing. That list is over 100. Ooh, right on. Send it to me. Hot salt water. Yes, I will. So, Robert Moore. So here's the thing. Part of the reason why we follow this is these are big titles: managing editor, publisher, and CEO, chief Washington correspondent, editor-in-chief, political director, Vice Media's chief digital officer, Vice Media's president, head of Vice Media documentary division, longtime CNBC director, BuzzFeed's White House reporter, executive director of Alternet. Of course, Chris Matthews. Of course, Marshall Falk. We went through that. Eric Weinberger, NFL Network executive producer. Dan, you enjoy the book? Okay, great. I'm sorry, you guys. I know several of you guys have really said that you enjoy that part, and I do too. I love it because it forces me to read that. So I'm getting back in the groove now. I'm getting things going. So anyway, that's where we're at with that. Good night, Bruce. Thanks for being here, joining us again, brother. Bruce Bedard, always great patriot, great follower of the show. Always here. Love you. Love to see you guys here. So I think that we will end it with that. I'd love to see the other article. Dan, if you can send it to me, I'd love to see it. Especially if there's over 100, we got to check that out. But we're going to keep an eye on it, mostly because it's the level that it's at. I think we have to keep an eye on it. We have to keep showing light on it because it's involving people in leadership, which eventually it's like being a bully. It's people that have power over others and they're taking advantage of them, and that pretty much pisses me off. So that's why we're going to keep track of it, which is exactly why it pisses me off when they do it in the government. They have power over us, or they believe they have power over us, which we're starting to teach them that that's not how the history books read. It's not how the Constitution reads. But they're bullies. You know, they think we're stupid. They think that we can't figure it out, and they think they can tell us whatever they want, and we're just going to sheeple along. Well, sheeple no more, people, because the woke society is increasing. So do your part to spread the word and share it out. Thank you guys for being here tonight and being with us again. We'll see you Sunday when Ty is back, and we will both be back. And we've got some few things in the works that are coming up. So just it's going to get interesting. There's a lot of things in the work, actually. So we'll see you guys Sunday, and enjoy Little Madison Rising National Anthem on your way out. Have a good night.
and the twilight